Hello, welcome back to
Empower to the People. I'm Paige.
And I'm Horetta. And on today's episode, we are going to be discussing spiritual awakenings and the signs and symptoms that you might be experiencing. So, you're not by yourself when these kind of things happen.
Yes, which is very helpful and, in my opinion, kind of soothing because I feel like when you're going through the ascension process and you experience these symptoms or side effects of it, it can feel very alienating and very isolating when really most everybody's going through that during this period. So,
Yeah.
here we are to share it with you.
Okay. So, look, I think it comes in a variety of different kind of ways. So, for me personally, I had like a spiritual awakenings type shift when my father unfortunately passed away when I was only like 21. And I was into Christianity. So I was raised in Christian household, great grandmother, grandmother, mother, all that, got baptized, all the good stuff. And I remember when my father passed away, I was just confused. Like, why? What is going on? Like I'm too young to, and he was like my bestie. So daddy's girl, big time. But when he passed away, I remember like getting involved in this church group, and it was just called, I think it was like a several weeks going through this book of quote unquote discovering God. And I was like, listen, I just need some answers. So hopefully this will help me. And at the time, I remember out of nowhere, and I wasn't even into this kind of spiritual stuff as I am now as a holistic health practitioner and everything. I'm really deep into the spirituality aspect of life, but I wasn't into it then. But I remember hearing a whisper that was like, get you a rose quartz crystal. And I was like,
Oh,
whoa.
what?
They said, they said, quote unquote, they said, well, I shouldn't do anything like that. Crystals.
Oh, I see. They said,
Yeah, they
as
said
in
that's not a good
your
thing.
teachings.
Yeah, that's not a good thing. I shouldn't do crystals. So of course, like I said, I've been raised since I was young, Christianity, and all of a sudden I hear a whisper, hey, get you a rose quartz. And I'm like, where is this whisper coming from? Okay. So it took me a while to finally do it, but I did some research and then I found out in Yellow Springs, the hippie place. Uh I went and found a store that carried crystals. And when I entered, I didn't feel any kind of like, oh, I shouldn't be doing this. It felt like the right thing to do. Right.
So, were you expecting that when you walked in? Like, oh, I'm supposed,
I don't know what I expected. I was just trusting whatever guidance that I received. And again, it wasn't a routine thing for me to receive this type of guidance. Now, granted, a couple episodes back, I was talking about me being a hospice nurse and that I could just sense people passing away. But this was just like, all right, I'm leaning into what I'm guided to do. So let me just go ahead out here and see what happens.
Yeah. And how you said, I was just trusting
Yeah.
because I think that's one of the hardest things to do when you're going through, a spiritual awakening or your ascension process is to trust that what you're experiencing and what you're feeling is okay. It's for your best and highest good because you feel like nobody else around you is experiencing those same things. You're like, there must be something wrong with me. There must be something wrong with me because it's not looking like your immediate environment. So trusting the process, I think, is a huge
thing
factor.
because you will be guided to do things and not understand why. And the guidance is a part of your intuition and trusting that inner self. That inner self, I always call like your inner GPS system, which is just spirit. It's just a part of you. So anyway, so I go out there and I find me a little rose quartz crystal. And I'm like, okay, this is cute. It's pink. It feels soft. It feels light. And it was so interesting. The lady, the cashier, and several times I had went out there. I don't really go out there that much now, but times when I did go out there, she would just like sometimes have a little message for you, like, and I'm like, oh, okay, well, whatever. So I take my crystal, I go home, and I'm like, okay, now I got it. What I'm supposed to do with this? What I got this crystal. What I'm supposed to do now? And I was guided to cleanse it by rinsing it underwater. So I washed it, and then I just held it in my hands for a little while, and I just wanted my heart to be healed because I just felt like empty to a certain degree. Like I could have really spazzed out, right? but it was just a space, a void that needed to be filled within my heart. And I was guided to place this crystal up under my pillow.
Oh,
Yeah. I didn't
okay.
know what else to do with it. So I just placed it up under my pillow, and I can't tell you how long it stayed up under there, but before I knew it, and I was getting energy work at the time too. So I remember going to have my first Reiki session, and she checked my chakras. And every time I would go, like at least 4 times, she'd be like, your heart is blocked, your heart is blocked. And granted, it was. So now when clients come in, I like to show with my pendulum, like, yeah, my heart is open because I worked very hard to keep this heart open, you know?
That is so amazing to me considering you're, a Leo rising, a Leo sun,
You're telling
and
my
you are
business.
Saul. I'm telling all your business. You shitting me? We're up here telling everybody our business.
Uh-huh.
She's very heart based. Leo is a very heart based zodiac sign and energy. It's heart led. It's, so I just think that that's so interesting. That's a big ascension process for you too,
Oh yeah,
Miss
I
Leo.
still have different things with my heart
Mhm.
that I work through, but more than anything, it's open. Well, you laughing at me?
I am.
Okay,
I
yeah, I
am.
caught you
Just
on
as I
camera.
like to hear that about you. That's so lovely.
Before I knew it, after having that up under my pillow, when I returned for my healing session, she'd be like, "Oh, your heart is open now." And I'm like, "Really? What? Okay. It must be something to these crystals." For all I did was keep it going and keep that rose quartz up under my pillow, but eventually I removed it
Okay.
because I felt like I had healed to a certain degree. And then I stopped questioning God per se. And believe it or not, eventually I chose to have more of an intimate relationship with God, who I now say divine. Because when I was saying God, I felt like, oh, I only met God on Sundays at church.
Oh, so you were still referring to your religious version of God.
Yes.
Okay. So
Yes.
with you listening and trusting that
It
higher
shifted.
guidance, it actually gave you a more intimate relationship with spirit, your higher power, what have you.
Yes. Me
Mm.
having an understanding that the divine, like I said, or people could say God, but me understanding that divine was in every living thing. Because before I knew it, I started attracting things to my life. Like all of a sudden, a lot of butterflies would just be coming around me. And I'm like, okay, I mean, granted, you see butterflies often, but they were like literally being my face.
You start seeing the magic of it, don't
Yes.
you? You
So
start
that's what
seeing
it
the
was.
magic of your faith.
Right, because a lot of in Christianity, they be like, God is above you, and that God is up there. And I'm like, okay. But
I'm just
once
gonna take your word for it.
yeah, but when I started experiencing more spirituality, I realized the divine in everything.
Mm.
So I would start paying attention to how birds fly, how how they in sync. I love that. That's just like the dopest thing to me.
It
How
is.
sometimes they're in sync, how sometimes I would like go on nature walks or whatever and see certain trees and it would just like speak to me. Don't ask me how it speak to me. It just spoke to me. And just different things like that that I started noticing the element of spirit in every living thing and that I wasn't just putting a wall around God.
Yeah, and in a box of what God should look like or what you
Yes.
were taught or whatever.
Yes.
And it's also just on the other side of that, I think it's amazing how I talked about in a previous episode, I didn't grow up with religion or faith or spirituality. Once I found my way to my own belief system, I really started to understand what they mean when I used to hear people say, nothing is an accident.
Mm.
Everything is a miracle. And I used to be like, oh, whatever. That's just science or that's just evolution. That's just how that works. And I'm
Mhm.
like, for me, it's like the human body. The human body is an incredible thing.
It
It's
is.
a miracle how well it works. And then
Mhm.
how we're so intuitive and how we're not even tapping into a third of what we're capable of.
Exactly.
So just on the other side, I got to see how people say that in a religious setting or whatever. I think it's neat how you got to see that it was even bigger than that
Bigger.
box.
Yes, bigger than a box. Well, granted, it was a level of birthing a new version of myself.
Okay, so let's talk about that.
Yeah.
So is this where you started to experience kind of like a break in what you've always been taught?
Yeah.
Okay.
And because look, this was what happened. I found me a holistic school. Okay. So I found this school and it was like an oasis of heaven for me to a certain degree, just because it was like minded people. And this is before like a lot of people were talking about spirituality online. I'm aging myself. But anyway.
Stop giving yourself away. You're totally sharing your business.
But yeah, so it was just like, oh my goodness, this is like a room full of like-minded people that, I can be open with. But I remember meeting someone and her faith was she was a Muslim. And I remember I was like, "Uh-oh. What does she believe in?" I not kind of yeah, it was. I'm not even going to deny it. It was a level of judgment that I felt. And I was just like, "But that's not me." It was an old version of me.
It was fear.
Yeah, it was a fear and it was like a judgment because then I had to think like, "Well, what if I was raised Muslim? I wouldn't know anything else." So I felt like that separation of religion is not beneficial. And I often tell my clients this story about how I stepped away from religion to spirituality. Now, don't get me wrong, I still believe in Jesus Christ. I still believe in that, but I take tidbits from our religions. And I remember the late Pope now, the late Pope being here one time and he went to visit New York and they had like 10 plus different religions on stage and everybody was saying their own prayer.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So I listened to everybody's representation and their own prayer and it all sounded the same to me.
Oh my God. That I agree.
Yeah.
That is what I thought was so amazing. So when I first had somebody gift me like my first Bible, and I, was like, well, I guess I should read up on this before just acting like none of it is valid, So, and plus I was like, let me read this story. This is this amazing story that everybody follows for life.
For life.
This is what they use as their directive for life. And so I'm like, let me read it. And, I was kind of just getting into my own spiritual awakening and journey. And I absolutely loved it. I absolutely loved it because it just said in a different way what I already believed, that everything is love based.
Everything.
Everything is love based and it all leads to the same place. We just might walk it a little bit differently, but that's between us and our higher power.
Yeah. Yeah. And so that's I switched gears when I was like, wait a minute, why am I judging her about her religion? It has no effect on me. So
because you were taught to be fearful of it.
Exactly. And I was like, no, but me putting it into the terms of, but what if I was raised a different religion? I wouldn't know
empathize or
so
compassion.
empathy. So that allowed me to step away from that. And I'm grateful that my family and my friends understood. It was no judgment. Like I would tell my mom, like, yeah, I don't really necessarily need to go to church anymore. So right now I just do Bedside Baptist. I find I really like Sarah Jakes Roberts. I really enjoy listening to her and her husband. Really, it was Torrey first. I really like Torrey Roberts first, and then I went to Sarah. But anyway, so I still get my scripture. I still get that. So because it feeds my spirit to a certain degree. But at the end of the day, the discomfort that I had with switching gears because it was all I knew, but then to start something, a new version of myself, but also the intimacy that I had with the divine really helped me get through because I was like, there's no way I would be guided to do the things that I do and feel happy and fulfilled in it, even if, even
in
if,
this way, like that you had been guided to do.
Right. So the fact that it shifted me, I felt a different level of love and that I didn't necessarily need to go to church on a routine basis. Because when I went to church, I only basically talked to God then and then, quick prayer here and there or whatever.
But it wasn't a true connection and relationship.
It shifted. Once I got into my more spiritual walk, it shifted to more intimacy. Now I talk to the divine all day, every day. My clients know before I start a session, I'm going to do a prayer for you. So before it used to be like, oh, let me keep my religion in the closet. Now I'm just out here.
I see that is so funny. Like, let me keep my religion in the closet. I feel I'm coming out of that closet a little bit too. Like I used to feel I used to feel very awkward and shameful around saying God because I feel like I wasn't shamed coming up, like, growing up saying God, but because it just wasn't something that we did or talked about or believed in necessarily, I was so fearful of judgment. Also, I was fearful of judgment because I had been so atheist, so agnostic, such a non-believer in any form of higher power or faith or religion that I was fearful of being judged. Like, see, I really started to develop a better understanding around how personal someone's faith is,
Okay.
and how it doesn't matter what anyone else says or thinks about, you know, their idea of God or higher power or whatever. All that matters is how you interact with it.
Exactly. It's so personal
It is so
and it's
personal.
intimate.
And yes, and
Mhm.
so now I say it very freely. I say God, I say spirit, I say higher power. I use higher power because of my 12-step program, because it
Okay.
looks different for everybody.
Exactly.
Um, but so that change in perspective that you were experiencing, I
Mhm.
think that's what really throws people a lot. It's like cognitive dissonance.
Yeah.
It's like a break in their previous belief system or knowledge that they were brought up in
Mhm.
or taught, or, not to put it down, but like almost indoctrinated with, told it has to be a certain way. So you experience this cognitive dissonance, which is just like, my brain can't deal with this. What everything that I've been taught or told might not be true, or there might be more to it.
Mhm.
Like, this is overwhelming. And this is where I feel like it can really be alienating and
Yes.
isolating, because it's like, something's wrong with me. Something's wrong with me. It's like, no, nothing is wrong with you.
Right, because you're going against the grain.
You're
Yeah,
evolving
you're evolving. So
more
it's
than
kind of
those
like
around you.
if you had a group of people and you're the eye by eye because you're doing something new. You're doing something, and that's
That's
what it is.
right.
It's truly a new awakening to
Yeah.
self.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, you might lose connection with family and
Mhm.
friends as you evolve and do your spiritual awakening because it's truly like you're shedding old parts of yourself just to be born anew. So you're really setting a new foundation for yourself. Like, okay, what beliefs and values work for me? Not based off of what I've taught, not based off of what I've been surrounded with. What truly resonates with me as a new individual?
Yes.
So it's like rebirth, as like when Christianity goes through baptism,
Mm.
you get placed in the water and then brought up is
Cleansed and
yeah,
renewed.
cleansed and renewed to a new version of yourself. So same
Okay.
thing with spiritual awakening. It's just different ways to go about it.
Okay.
And you have to choose what is right for you.
Yes, making
Mhm.
it all the more personal. And I would just like to touch on how you said sometimes we can lose connections, or we can disconnect from those people that we were close to previous to or prior to this awakening or ascension process. So maybe you stop feeling like it's not as easy to relate to the church crowd, or
Mm.
maybe it's not as easy to relate to the people who, or friends or family that you've been around that really like to make fun of Christians or faith, because maybe you're not moving away from religion but more to religion. It can work both
Yes, it
ways.
can.
um
Because people can find a safe space when they're just searching for something.
Something like
And that's what draws a lot of people to church at times. And I feel like
a
we're,
sense of community and support.
yeah. And I believe there's definitely a shift with that we are in the midst of people trying to seek something outside themselves that will help because this
Yes,
world we live in now, I've been
it's
saying,
forcing it. It's
whew,
forcing it, which is why one of the reasons why we started this channel,
yeah.
because so many people come to see you specifically because maybe they're awakening and they're going through an
Hmm.
ascension process. And then with clients and I, when we're having conversation, people are getting more curious because as I share a little bit more about myself and my process, and I show a little bit less fear around being more authentic
Okay.
where I'm at, I feel like that gives people a sense of comfort in opening up about their feelings and what's going on. So I think a lot of people are looking for something, which I can so relate to, as we discussed
Hmm.
in another episode, something to anchor onto. Because when the 3D, the mundane world does not feel real, it's like, I need something to
Yes.
believe in.
Yeah,
I
because
mean, it sounds
really
like a
that's
cliche, but it's so
it's
true.
so true. It's really a shift in the awareness of yourself, but also the world around you.
Yes, and
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of guilt around people moving away from religion that they were brought up in, belief
Yeah.
systems that they were taught. But the truth is, people are not moving away from God. They're moving closer to God,
More
their
intimacy.
version of God.
Yes.
So people are like, oh, it's the end times. People are forgetting about God. No, they're not. They're
No.
finding God
Yeah, in a different way.
in their own way.
Yeah. So like I know you always talk about like the we on Sundays we used to like go on hikes and stuff like that. And she'll be
Yes.
like, The woods are your
Nature is my
There
church
you go.
because that is where I see God in action.
Mhm.
That is where I see miracles happening. And that is where I feel the most rejuvenated, revitalized, and renewed is in nature.
Yeah.
That's a direct product of God to me.
Yeah. So the fact that you are even aware of being able to feel that and feel that lightness and that safety and that connection.
Mhm.
Now you're in an open space,
Mhm.
yet it feels so, oh, your eyes are lighting up. Um but yeah, you feel that even out there and into an open space, you feel that connection
Yeah, and I
with
wouldn't even go with certain people, like, unless
mhm.
like, I would go with you because I
Mhm.
feel connected and close to you, but I won't even go out in nature, hike with people that I don't feel close with or loved by or safe with because of that. I don't want it disrupted. I don't want it ruined for
Yeah.
me, because that's, like, my safe place or it's like a holy place.
So when like this awareness shift occurs, a lot of people explain that they see beyond the veil. What does that mean to you?
So seeing beyond the veil to me is seeing beyond, like, the 3D that's right in front of us
Okay, talk
because
about the 3D because some people might not understand
okay,
what you mean by that.
3D, three-dimensional, the mundane, the paying the bills, the politics that are going on, the go to the grocery store, the person that cut me off in traffic, the very
Everyday life.
everyday life of being human, the experience of being human. So when we talk about 4D, 5D, we're talking about getting more into our intellect, our soul, our belief system, and what's beyond what we see,
Mhm.
beyond
The
this,
material.
beyond the material and the solid stuff.
Okay.
Okay, so to me, beyond the veil or behind the veil is, spirit world.
Mhm.
It's our past ancestors, it's our spirit guides, it's our angels, it's our higher power working behind the scenes or behind the veil on that manifestation that you keep working on and thinking about and
Yes.
talking to for better or worse. So we need to be mindful of our thoughts, which we're going to talk about later.
Mhm.
But does that answer the question?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah, yeah, yeah. Just because so even though you said beyond the veil, a lot of my clients come because I will use the term they, right? And I'll be like, they're telling me that you need blah 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 blah. And they're like, who's
who is
they?
they?
Yeah. And I'm like, okay, how do I explain this?
That could be their ancestors or their guides that are trying to talk to you because you're their form of communication. You're their medium. You're their delivery
Yes.
system.
So that's why I like to it's hard for me to explain sometimes, but it's kind of like I dial in if we're going to use the metaphor of a radio. When I'm working on a client, I literally touch their head and I dial in to their frequency and then I just receive messages. And the messages come in like a regular voice in my head. I can decipher what's me and what's not me, but it's no different change in the tone or anything. It's not like I have an overwhelming thing. I'm just a divine channel for messages to come through. So when I use the word they, they're like, "Who do you mean they?" And I'm like, "Well, spirit." And they're like, "Okay, spirit." But then I use an umbrella. Spirit
I
to
was to
me,
say,
yeah,
spirit can encompass anything beyond the
anything.
veil.
So therefore, I say my spirit team. So my
Yes.
spirit team could be ancestors, guides, anything, and I make sure to say a 100% pure light because I don't mess with dark. So even when I do my readings, I'm like, all right, 100% pure light. Please assist me with the message that's coming through today. So I'm
Mm-hmm.
very very clear about that. But when I say they, I'm talking about your spiritual team, and I believe everybody has a spirit team. It's just what
Yes.
you prefer, what you connect with. So
Yeah.
I like to work. We'll do an episode about that, like archangels and
Mm-hmm.
guides
Mm-hmm.
and ancestors or
Loved
whatnot.
ones that have passed on. I
Yes, yes, yes,
always talk to
yes.
my grandmother, my grandma
Yeah.
who's passed away, and my aunt. I feel like anytime I'm really needing help, I'm like, Grandma, please help me. Please talk to me. Please something. One time I remember I went to Victory of Light,
Mhm.
the Victory of Light Expo, which is like all things metaphysical and spiritual. And I went in and I had a reading done, and she was like, "Somebody is coming through today." She's like, "If you have guides or higher or whatever, ask them to give you a message if they have one for you to receive." And
Mm.
I was like, "Grandma, if you're here, I need you to tell me whatever I'm missing." And she started doing her stuff, and she was like, "Well, I don't know who you spoke to, but I get a feeling it's like a maternal older woman, and they have a big message for you." And I was like, what? Like, also that was early on in my spiritual
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
ascension and awakening, and I was like, what the hell? Like,
Mhm.
so, it
I
just
get
depends
that.
on who you feel closest to, or what your spirit team may consist of.
Yeah, because I remember it was one phase where I was in this spiritual group online, and these people were talking about like building an altar and all this other stuff. So I was like, well, it never hurts to try. And I tried, but it did not connect with me. That wasn't for me. So I want to give you permission that if it's things that attract you, you can try it out, but do not do it unauthentically towards yourself. If it doesn't feel right, do not follow through with it.
Right. And I mean, that is the thing, is about becoming authentic to yourself. I do have an altar at home. I have an altar where I sit at it. It looks like, just a little desk, but it's where all these little things and pieces of nature that I've found or that spirit has presented to me that represent something, or in the moment I was asking for a sign or a vision or whatever, and it was present. I have a snake skin wrapped up, and I was just walking and I was going through, one of my many transformations and shedding phases. And I was just like, I wish I had a sign or whatever. Came on this beautifully, still intact snake skin. I'm like, I'm taking that.
Yeah.
That's for me.
Okay. So, quote unquote, seeing beyond the veil, you have to talk about the day. This was when we were first starting to get to know each other. We would go on these nature walks. And remember when we saw those two white?
Yeah. So we were on one of our little nature walks. I had my little dog Paisley, and Retta's not a big fan of dogs and pets and stuff, but Paisley,
they love me though.
Yes, yes. Well, because she's a light being, so of course they're like, oh, safe, good person.
And I'd be like, hey,
hi, don't lick me. So anyway, we're walking through. Where were we? We were over in Hills and Dales.
Yeah, Hills and Dales.
Yeah. So we were walking through, or was that Inglewood?
No,
it was Hills and Dales.
Yeah.
So we're walking through.
I can see it vividly.
Yeah, I have Paisley, my little dog. We're just walking along, and all of a sudden, these two huge white dogs, they look like white German shepherds, which are actually kind of rare. My dad used to have one when he was younger, but I've never seen them in person.
They were beautiful.
They were.
For me to talk about a dog being beautiful, now listen, I'm just saying. But out of nowhere,
they just came up behind us, and we were both and no collars, no leashes. We didn't see people with them. So we just thought, oh, maybe they're walking their dogs off leash. But I'm like, I don't think you're allowed to do that in the park. And I'm always really concerned with Paisley because she's a little dog. So I kind of was like, okay, hold, don't let them get near her. And Retta, we both parted the path and let them pass through. And they just kind of looked at us and kept on going, and up and over the hill they went. We're expecting their people to follow up behind us. 2 seconds later, we also come over the hill. They're nowhere to be found.
Where did they go?
And no people ever came. And
so did we have a moment beyond the veil?
Yeah, we were like, what was that? What was that? Where are those people? I think we even hung out for a few minutes just to see if we could see them again, and they never appeared again.
Shocked.
Never appeared again. And I think I was trying to rationalize it away too. Did that really happen? Did that really happen? And then I finally was like, that really happened.
It really happened. And it was just and
that wasn't the only time something like that happened. There have been many times. The two eagles.
Yes. That was, what park is that?
That was at Germantown.
Oh, no, that wasn't. Germantown.
Down by the creek.
Oh my God. We were so loud when we saw it too, right?
They're screamed.
We were just chilling or whatever. We just talking about life. We're just talking about life. And then, out of nowhere, we spot two
bald eagles. I realize they're not as rare as they used to be, but we were sitting on this bench overlooking Twin Creek down there in Germantown. And there's this big valley, space in between the trees over the creek. And we're talking, and all of a sudden, I couldn't even speak. This big bald eagle swoops down in front of us, and I was like, oh, oh, oh. And another one right behind it. And they don't hunt together typically. I was like, it's always when we get together, stuff like that happens, and it's always in pairs.
Yeah, always in pairs.
One for me, one for you. It's just so weird.
We saw something else down at Triangle Park. I can't remember what it was though, but I feel like we saw something. Anyway, but things like this happen. So it always makes me have moments of okay, spirit personally the dogs though, I felt like that was
I'll never forget that
type of situation. What in the world is going on?
And nobody else was around to see it. Sometimes I'm like, did anybody see that?
And that's a busy park.
Yes, it is.
So it was very, very odd. So when things like that happen,
the only other witness was Paisley, and she ain't talking.
That would be a good scene in a movie. I just saw a sparkle.
I always see it as a movie scene in my head. We're both like,
wait a minute.
What's that? And then, okay, keep walking. Where the hell did they go?
Where's the owners?
What was
That was the
that?
thing. Okay, we went too long about this. But anyway, that that is no, that was good
I
though.
know.
That was a scenario of like sometimes I question what level of spirituality and beyond the veil that really shows up in our
Yeah,
lives.
are we stepping into a different part of the dimension right now? 'Cause I feel like it vacillates,
Hello?
just like boop, 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 boop.
You know, you never know because they say we're in a matrix.
That's what I
And
mean. Yeah.
you never that scene right there. Look at me calling it a scene. That scene right there was something totally different in
That was
life.
Matrix right there.
Yeah.
That was like glitching of the Matrix.
Anywho, so especially with your spiritual awakening and different signs and symptoms you might have, it's like a different form of realignment. So I literally feel like I called Paige into my life, okay? Because I had been wanting a friend that I can just be my random spiritual self with. Now, I'm granted, I love my friends who've been down with me since like middle school or whatnot, but they don't I'm not able to have this kind of free talk about the random spiritual stuff that shows up in my life. For instance, earlier this week, I'm like, oh my God, Paige, look at this angel number that I saw. And she's like, oh, what does it mean? So then I send her a link and stuff. I don't do that with a lot of my friends. So I was
Like
intentional.
they won't get it,
No,
right?
they won't get it.
I know.
So I've been intentional it was intentional for years, me calling in like my quote unquote spiritual tribe. And now I can say I have several close friends that I'm able to experience my spirituality with, but also to be like my full self. How about that? And it's not like I tailor myself. I am who I am.
No, but
people
it's
get it, but it's great to have. Especially, I wanted somebody who was an entrepreneur as well,
who gets it,
who
yes.
gets this type of life, but
Mhm.
also who I can talk about manifesting and bringing things to my life. So it just really has worked out that it's only been like 5 years since we've been knowing each other.
Yeah, we met each other during the freaking upheaval of the pandemic.
Yeah.
Because I had people like being like, oh, you need to meet this lady Heretta. And then she had people telling her, you need to meet Paige.
Yeah.
And I think I was like calling you into my life too, because I needed some support, even though I will never forget, I was feeling that spiritual high of, realizing that there's more than just the everyday mundane existence.
And that's that realignment.
Yes.
So yeah, talk about that.
Yes. So like it was so wonderful when I was experiencing that. Remember when I talked in a previous episode about when I first like considered a higher power, and I was like, wow, if I'm just grateful, like more things come into my life. That's that riding up to the peak I was talking about, that high on like, I'm not afraid because I have a higher power now and this is okay and I'm seeing purpose. Well, then a little bit before the pandemic, things kind of started to slope down again. And I still had my faith and belief in spirituality, but things started losing their color, their sparkle. Like I had my crystals.
That's a good metaphor.
Yeah, and it's just, and I just felt, I started feeling really numb, and I think it's because I was working, and I was burnt out, and I wasn't in love with what I did. And even though I'm still doing that, I have had a big shift in perspective on what I do. But I was just feeling like really like I don't love this. I don't love my life. I don't love, even though things are fine. But I'm just like, that's not enough for me. I'm like
fulfilled.
No, I was not fulfilled, and I had more than I ever had for myself in my life. And then the pandemic happened and I suddenly couldn't do anything. So I was like, now I'm really unfulfilled and I don't even know who I am and what's going on. And finally, like when people introduced us, and she reached out to me on Facebook because I was having a fit about not being able to work. Like, I think I might just close up. And she was like, nope. I'm like, who is this?
And then I didn't even know how great she was at what she did at the time. I was just like, Spirit just really told me to hit you up. That's what I did.
Yeah. So like when we start to align with our authentic selves and start to look into ourselves and what we're believing and just be open to greater possibilities, we call in our tribe. Our vibe attracts our tribe.
You naturally will attract the right people. So like
you can't help but do it.
You can't. Honestly, you can't. And I remember what was that, 2 years ago, I did a workshop and it was like the coolest thing because I was able to have 3 of my close, dear spiritual friends help me do this workshop. So I just like really felt like, oh my goodness, this was an amazing
That's something.
moment.
Yeah, that's something I was going to say. Like connecting with you, like has exposed me to other people. Like you've
Mhm.
connected me to like Carmen and
Mhm.
Eddie when we did that workshop, and like just feeling, because I always feel like a weirdo, like I'm on the outside. I mean, I'm double Aquarius, so I
It's
feel
part
weird
of it.
outside and inside. I just, I'm okay with that. But sometimes I just want to feel like a couple people get me or
Yeah.
appreciate my weirdness. And I'm
Mhm.
like, oh my gosh, I'm meeting people that like don't care that I am the way actually they love it, or
Mhm.
they're appreciative of it. And I'm like, that's enough. Like,
Yeah.
so I feel like I called that in too. And
Mhm.
here we go. My spirituality ramped back up because now I'm hitting another level.
Yes, ramp up.
I mean, sometimes it's fun. Sometimes I'm like, oh my God.
Yeah,
Like that
yeah.
roller coaster.
And the thing is that you are able to help each other process things and move through,
Yeah.
because we all experience different levels of it.
Yeah.
So beyond the realignment and calling your tribe mates and having your awareness shift, we also have like a different kind of connection with our spirit team, what I spoke about earlier, and they show up in different kind of ways.
Yes.
Like I like to say, sometimes when our loved ones pass away, you look at the clock and you see their birth date, or
Yeah.
you look at a license plate and the number will come across. And I always just feel like that's a little hello from your spirit team or your ancestor that passed away. There's all different sides. Like a lot of clients, I talk about seeing some clients put birds, seeing certain birds remind them of a loved one that passed away.
Yes. Yeah.
I know when I see coins, that's like, why is it a coin out here? It has no reason to be out here. To me, that's a signal from spirit, like, hey. And I was like, okay, let me pick up this penny. I will always pick up a penny just because I'm like, that might be spirit just trying to talk to
Was
me.
that you or somebody told me that? Because I remember like for like 2 months in a row, I had seen a penny beneath my treatment bed at work. And I was like, where in the hell is this penny coming from?
Where was it?
It was beneath my treatment bed. And this was, I think actually, this was before I met you because anyway, I
You
picked it
don't
up
use
one
coins in
day.
here.
Exactly. Exactly. But I was like, I don't know why this penny keeps being, and they're like, well, have you picked it up and asked? And I'm like, what are you
Oh.
talking about? They said, pick it up in your left hand, your non-dominant receiving hand,
Mhm.
and ask your spirit team or your guides, please show me what I'm not seeing. Please
Mm.
show me what I'm not seeing. So whenever I did, and well, shit took off from there.
Yeah. So that's a synchronicity that occurs.
Yeah.
So that's another form of awakening. I know the other day, I need to look it up because I forgot to look it up. But the other day I just walked out my building and it was like a blue jay. I don't never see blue jay.
I love seeing a blue jay. I was just
Yeah.
sharing with my mom the other day, the rarest color in nature is blue.
Listen.
Yeah.
Like not live. I work on a somewhat busy street, Dixie and Kettering or whatnot.
It's a
And
concrete jungle right around there too.
for me to just like literally walk out the office and it's just like shoo, and to the point where I remember like, did I just see? Yes, I
Yes,
saw
I
that.
did.
So then I'm up here like trying to look all up into the tree trying to find
I
this
love
blue
that
jay,
when
but I
that
am gonna have
happens.
to look up that meaning because
Yeah.
to me when I see little stuff like that pops up, it has some type of meaning to it.
Yeah, that's okay. I just saw one last night on a walk with the dogs. It's
Shut your face.
yeah, it's so special when I see it because I feel like I don't see them as often.
Mm-hmm.
Birds are a big one though.
Yeah. So that's another little thing that you might see. And more than anything, trust what you know, trust what you see, trust what you hear. It is a process of trusting your intuition, that energy PS system. You're not making things up.
No, and
It's life.
I want to say something too. One thing I love, like, about being able to connect with you and feeling more confident in embracing the magic in life, embracing the
Yeah.
like childlike wonder and curiosity and
Mhm.
possibility of things that can be occurring that we're taught early on to stop doing that.
Mhm.
Stop doing
No.
that. That's not important. That's not real because it's conditioned out of us. And I'm very grateful that I have that quality naturally to just have this like childlike
I
wonder
love
and
it.
curiosity, but I, always felt really embarrassed or ashamed of it. Like I'm immature
Mhm.
or I'm not going to be taken seriously. But who freaking cares? Because like I want to enjoy this experience.
Yeah.
This is why
You
I
only
say
have one.
the 3D doesn't matter. Yeah, it's stressful to have to pay bills and how are we going to make ends meet and da da da. But I'm like, none of it really matters. We're really just here to do this, like experience. This is like playing a video game. That might be a little bit far for some people, but it's like we're all going to go to the same place or like leave the same way.
It's a book that's called How to Play the Game of Life.
It's an old book, right?
Yes.
Yep.
We're gonna do an episode about that.
Okay,
period.
it's a good one.
It's a good one. It's a good one.
Old book. It's an old one, right?
Old,
by
like
a female author.
Yep. Yeah. I can't remember
it right now. Listening to that a while back. That's so crazy.
Yeah, it's a good one, but it's really like you have this avatar. Hold on. I'm not about to go into it today. Don't worry about it. You'll have to tune in for the next episode.
That's right.
Or two.
That's right.
But so stay tuned. Go ahead and subscribe for us to have more information about that. But I hope that you enjoyed today's episode.
Yes, and please leave us a comment. Leave us a comment to let us know what kind of spiritual awakening or ascension symptoms have you experienced.
Yeah, and if you want us to talk about something else, you can always email us at empowerttp@gmail.com.
Yes, which will be in the description below.
Yes.
But thanks again for tuning in with us and hanging out with us today. We appreciate you. Please like, share, and subscribe.
Yes. And until next time, we are here to empower you.
Empower to the people.
All right. Peace, y'all.
Bye.